I'ma keep winning, winning. I'ma keep winning, winning. I'ma keep winning, winning. You can try to save yourself, but you only go.
What's going on, guys? Jake Ham back with another video, and today I'm going to be looking at Mel Kiper's studs and duds of the 2025 NFL Combine. It's going to be kind of his reaction to a lot of the guys that either rose their stock or kind of fell down a lot of the stock. I'm going to react and see the kind of guys that he discusses in here. But before we get into it, please make sure to like the video, comment down below anything you agree or disagree with I talk about in here, and we can have a discussion down below. And make sure to subscribe to the channel for future NFL content that I'm going to be putting out. Free agency starts in about a week. And we have pro days coming up. We have the NFL draft that's fastly approaching. It's about 49 days till the draft. So I'm going to be putting out content for all that. Make sure to subscribe to the channel to be able to keep up with that. So with this Mel Kiper jumping into this is all the guys that he's kind of listing that kind of made an impact and had really good pro days, or really good combine days, my bad, last week at the NFL Combine. So starting into this with Maxwell Hairston, he was one of the most freak athletes out of all the corners that ended up taking place. He ran the fastest 40-yard dash at the Combine and a 4.28. I will say about Maxwell Hairston, there's still a lot of concerns with his play because when you're looking at a couple of these guys that took place, they have great film and they were able to, they did what you expected and they came in, they were able to back it up at the combine. So that rose them up a little bit because it's pretty much what you're expected. And they did exactly what you thought they would on tape. It matches what they did at the combine. Maxwell Harrison's a little bit different, all right, because his tape is a little bit iffy and has a little bit of questions about it. There's certain games where he kind of gets beat at certain points, but there's also some parts in it. It's kind of ups and downs with a lot of his tapes. There's a Tennessee film where he's able to pretty much use his speed to cut down where the Tennessee receiver ends up beating him off, and he's able to go deflect the ball. And with him pretty much showing off his freakish athleticism, maybe that could have rose up a couple boards. But there's a lot of concerns with his tackling. I know with corners, that's kind of a nitpicky thing because how often as a corner do you want them to tackle? You kind of just want them to be locked down coverage and be able to shut guys down. They don't really, it's not the biggest deals if they can tackle. It's obviously a big plus if they can, but you're mainly focused on putting them on somebody and being able to lock them down. Maxwell Harrison is going to be an interesting to see on the draft night. I think a team could fall in love with his intangibles and his athletic ability and maybe take him in the late half of the first round. But I think he went kind of from that late second round area to that more early second round area. And that's kind of what they talk about here with Mel Kiper. That's kind of the points they makes was so I mean, obviously at the combine, if you didn't like him as a player and he ends up going out and being a freak athlete at the combine, that he shouldn't rise up your board a lot because you didn't like him as a player. So that doesn't really make a lot of sense. I think that goes very well with Maxwell Harrison here. And the second corner that we're going to be talking about that had a great day at the combine as well was Jade Barron from Texas. Mel Kiper lists him currently as the number three cornerback prospect in his class. I do think that he has a real chance to be the number one corner taken off the board. You still have Will Johnson and a couple guys with injury. The corner class is just so interesting this year because of the injuries that a lot of them have had. A lot of them have that great size and ability and have put great tape out, but a lot of them have struggled with injury. Will Johnson's coming off an injury that ended up ending his year, and there's a lot of questions with his speed and is he fast enough? Is it actually? And we'll have to see at his pro day because he didn't actually run at the combine. And there's a couple other injuries. Siobhan Ravel from ECU, he has that length and the frame that you want to have a corner, and he's pretty much a great ball hawk to go along with that frame. But he was also injured, was out all the year. I'm pretty sure he tore his ACL, if I remember that right. I may be wrong about that. And then the same thing with Benjamin Morrison. Benjamin Morris was seen at the last couple of years as someone that was coming up and just has been in that football NFL pedigree, knew how the game was played, has those instincts that you'd want. But he ends up getting injured and missing a lot of the season. So a lot of these corners have been hurt, and John Day Barron has been one of the ones that has been healthy and played the full season. And he's kind of put the last couple of years up on tape as well that people have been reviewing. And I do think based on certain teams that could fall in love with certain, you know, things about each one of these corners, he could potentially, if Will Johnson starts to slide, because a lot of those questions that we talked about start going more and more with him, I think Jade Barron could potentially end up being the first corner off the board in the middle of the first round. Maybe a Cardinals end up falling in love with him because the Cardinals are a team that's kind of iffy on what they could do. There's several different places that they need. Maybe a Tampa Bay. I know most people are looking for more of an edge rusher to Tampa Bay, but that they could end up looking to upgrade their secondary ever since they lost Carlton Davis. You know, they're kind of needing a secondary piece in there with Antoine Winfield as safety. Maybe one of those teams ends up falling in love with him and passing on Will Johnson, and maybe the injuries and his speed ends up becoming questionable, and Jahdae Barron ends up becoming one of the first cornerbacks off the board. Moving to the next guy that he talks about is a guy that raised his stock a whole lot, and that's another Texas player and Matthew Golden, receiver. Matthew Golden ran one of the fastest 40s. He ran a 4.29. He was the guy that a lot of people were talking about Isaiah Bond and what he could potentially do, and Matthew Golden here ended up being one of the top guys that ended up running his 40. He's just a playmaker. Anytime Texas needed a big play to be made, it was always Matthew Golden. He was the one that ended up saving their season against Arizona State, forcing overtime with that touchdown, and even making a huge impact into overtime. It was originally at the beginning of the season seen kind of as Isaiah Bond's team, but once Isaiah Bond went down with that ankle injury, Matthew Golden kind of stepped up and he ended up being one of the guys that ended up being the huge playmakers on that Texas team. And it's obviously a combination of his route running and the speed that he shows, like he did in the 40-yard dash at that 4.29. He's another one. There's been a lot of reports. I don't necessarily see this. I don't know if I would do this, but him potentially being the first receiver off the board. There's been several reports from several different outlets that a lot of teams really do like Matthew Golden and a lot of their scouts do. And it would be very shocking in my opinion, but it said don't be shocked if Matthew Golden ends up being the first receiver picked in the NFL draft. So it's really just depends on that Tedero McMillan thing, kind of with Jahdae Barron, with Will Johnson. A lot of reports have had Tedero McMillan falling down boards. Mel Kiper and Daniel Jeremiah have both had um, Tedero McMillan being taken in the 20s, falling all the way down when he was kind of seen as a top five pick. He didn't work out the combine. He has freakish height, but Matthew Golden has been kind of shining to a lot of these teams, you know, especially with his tape, how he was the playmaker for Texas and officially putting it in with the combine and showing his ability with the combine, raising his stock a little bit more. Now Mel Kiper has him right now as his number five wide receiver prospect. It's going to be interesting with the receiver class, kind of similar with the corner. It's not the most strength of this class. A lot of the areas that are the strength of this class are defensive line, running back, tight end, those areas. Wide receiver is not a big strength of this class, so with them not being far off each other's rankings, a lot of these teams could have different rankings on these guys based on the top five receivers. Some might have Matthew Gold one, while some teams might have him number four. It really just depends on them and how it is. And don't be shocked from a lot of the reports is that him being taken number one. Being taken as the number one receiver in this class. Another guy that ended up showing out at the combine was Jalen Nolan from Iowa State. He's definitely a guy that ends up with his size and his speed being able to be one of those guys that's kind of similar to a Tedero McMillan. He rose his stock a lot in the combine. He even has the stats. He has 80 receptions with almost 1,200 yards and 8 touchdowns. He's a guy that kind of went from a early third, so now he's going to be an early second round pick. He's going to go one of those early second round teams, maybe a Raiders. If the Raiders end up taking quarterback in the first round, then they could easily go with a weapon and go on Jalen Nolan, who could end up stepping. Maybe a Jets, somebody that could end up complimenting Garrett Wilson as well to be able to get another piece in there. A Giants would be another piece. The Giants just need offensive playmakers. So if they end up getting Cam Ward or Shador Sanders, they could look to end up adding pieces to that team. So he could be an easy guy that's going to end up going in that second round area for a team that's looking for just more offensive talent and more pieces to be able to complement others. And he definitely rose his stock up to where he's going to be going in the early second round area. Now, another guy that I want to talk about was Jared Wilson. Jared Wilson ended up raising his stock too into that early second round area. He could go to a team like the Bears, maybe that needs a center. He was a guy that had to wait his turn at the University of Georgia. He didn't really start right away. He sat for 2 years, and now he's finally ended up getting his chance to be the starter at Georgia, and he ended up killing it. He did very well, and he was one of the better offensive linemen that they had. He's going to be taking that early second round area. He even did it at the combine. He was able to go out and he ran one of the fastest 40 times out of all the offensive linemen. He had a crazy fast 40. He's has great technique that he's shown. Sometimes he just needs to be able to get that reaction time that the offensive line has, but he doesn't really have a lot of game time in because this is his first year starting. He just needs more time to be able to develop and get those instincts that a lot of offensive linemen have for a lot of the stunts that he kind of struggles with every once in a while. So that's one of the pieces that comes over time as you play and you draft this guy. But he's an athletic freak. He ended up going off of the combine with several of the drills. He looked very well, looked very smooth, and he definitely was able to rise his stock into that early second for maybe a mid third round pick to go up a full round. And I think a team that definitely needs an interior piece is going to end up taking him. Like I said, the main target I think for Jared Wilson would be the Chicago Bears because the Chicago Bears do not have a center right now. If they don't go out in free agency, that's going to change it based on team needs and things like that. But I really do like Jared Wilson over time. Once he's able to get those instincts, he's definitely going to be able to develop into a very good centerpiece on interior offensive line. And the last guy I want to talk about that rose his stock a lot, probably the most out of any of the guys, is Armand Membu. Now he's a little bit shorter, so that kind of might scare some teams off. Field Yates currently has him as the number 18 prospect in the class. He's played right tackle pretty much all at Missouri. I think he's more of that Elijah Vera Tucker build from a couple of years ago with the Jets that could play guard. I think he's going to be a great starting guard, but could bump out and play a high level tackle play. But I think whatever team drafts him, if they draft him in the top 10, then he's definitely going to be playing right tackle for that team. And I think it's a real possibility now that he could end up being the first offensive lineman taken off the board. I think that he could be a top 10 pick. In my opinion, I think one of the best spots to have him is the New York Jets. The New York Jets have a huge need at right tackle. They pretty much have all four of their other positions filled. They have nice young pieces on the other four sides, and those are all kind of solidified, but they're going to be losing Morgan Moses into free agency just because he was with the other regime and he's getting kind of older and they don't really want to pay him. So I think Armand Membu would definitely be a good fit there at number 7 to pretty much fill out that offensive line. I think the Saints end up being a good pick. I know they took Talisa Fulago last year, but they still have Trevor Penning, who is not very well, has not been doing very good, and they're probably going to need to move on from him here in the next couple of years. And I think he could slot in and potentially be able to move over to that left tackle spot. But not only with the Saints as well, they do need interior offensive line help. So he could end up playing guard there. The 49ers would be a good, interesting situation because with him being able to jump in with the 49ers, play guard for a year or two, and then potentially maybe bump out the tackle once Trent Williams is done, he would be a very good fit. I think he's best fit in there at that in the 49ers, maybe to the Dolphins because of their offensive schemes with the outside zone. He's an outside zone player and he ran it a lot at Missouri. He was able to pretty much go and seal off the edge every single time. If they ever ran the ball to his side, they were getting at least 4 yards because he got enough movement on the end and sealed him off to pretty much set the edge. So the running back, all he had to do is just run straight to the sideline like you're aiming to on outside zone. And that's pretty much what he's going to be in the NFL. He's a great finesse blocker, and he's able to pretty much use his power in certain run game situations and in the passing game to be able to anchor down. And he's one of my favorite offensive linemen. I believe I have him ranked as the number 3 favorite offensive lineman. I have Tyler Booker and Kelvin Banks above him, and he's currently my 3rd favorite, but he has the highest ceiling out of any of these guys to be able to be a great player in NFL. So these are the main guys I wanted to look at for Mel Kiper and his studs and duds, mostly his studs that were able to rise up a lot of the draft boards at the combine. Please make sure to like the video, comment down below anything you agreed or disagree with I talked about in here, and make sure to subscribe to the channel for future NFL content that I'm going to be putting out. And thanks for watching.
Yeah, feel like John Moran. Need a triple double. Told him check the stats. Yeah, I got a couple. I don't drop the ball. Now I never fumble. I'm the MVP. Now I feel like Russell. Feel like John Moran. Need a triple double. Told him check the stats. Yeah, I got a couple.